Welcome everyone to Agora, and thank you for everyone being here today. We're very excited to have our vendor on here, which is eCashflow. Rod Hill is the owner and CEO, and he's going to be going over all this, and it's just been a real joy to work with him. And what I like about this product, and maybe Rod, you can kind of give some background about it, but this is a very, very unique product and something that I love to have in Agora. I love when we have products like this in Agora. It was one of our first products that we actually had in Agora, and we revisited. And this one here has the potential to be a huge, huge money earner for you. If you land the right clients, when he gets into detail, you're going to see this is a very, very exciting opportunity, what we offer here. And I'm going to, no further ado, Rod, I'm going to have you take over, and maybe you can tell everyone kind of how you started, your background, and then let's just dive into this phenomenal product you have created here.
Great, Vince. I appreciate it. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the call here today. I think if you'll hang in there for 10 minutes, probably not more than 15 minutes, you'll get a really good feeling about how eCashflow system began, how it works, and how you can make a ton of money utilizing eCashflow services for your customers. About 20 years ago, 1999, I started eCashflow services from scratch. 2 million checks were bouncing every day in the United States back then. So we all know that it's different today. There aren't that many checks out there as there were, 20 years ago. But I'll just tell you exactly how we decided to get into the business, and then what we did to grow it substantially in a short period of time. I had been in the woodworking industry for a long time, and I decided that I'd been in it long enough. I needed to do something else. So I started into credit card processing sales. And it didn't take me long to realize that the industry back then, 20 years ago, was not the type of business I really wanted to be into. I really wasn't thrilled with the behavior of some of the processors that I knew. So at any rate, I learned that there were all these checks bouncing, and then I learned that if I were to join up with the National Automated Clearinghouse Association, which makes all the rules for checks, check deposits, ACH transactions, all of those things that had to do with payments back then, not counting debit and credit cards and all that stuff, but every other type of payment, that they would set me up so that I could become a third-party processor for these NSF or non-sufficient funds declined payments. So I started in 1999, and within a year, I took on a partner, and we began scouring the countryside and signing up every merchant that you could find. And they all had piles, or at least a small pile of declined payments or NSF checks, and we started collecting them like crazy. And in 2001, as we all know, 9/11 happened, and it really did make a difference, not only to our business, but to our country, as we all know. But a year later, President Bush signed a law that said you can now send checks from bank to bank using images of the checks. You don't actually have to send the paper checks. Because what happened in 2011, when 2011 happened and the disaster took place, for 3 days, all the airplanes in the United States were grounded, and they were filled with checks that would normally go cross-country from one bank to another so they could get paid. And so they were stuck. And that's why a year later, they passed a law that said now you can send images through the internet and get paid that way. So what happened then is that really turned on a whole new marketplace, which is ACH processing, which is automatic clearinghouse processing for electronic payments. So many checks since then have been converted to electronic deposits at the point of sale, and or they're just ACH transactions that are done on recurring payments every month. You probably have your own payments some of which come right out of your checking account and go into somebody that you're paying your bill every month. Those are ACH payments. At any rate, we added the recovery of declined ACH payments because they decline even at a higher rate than did checks at the time. So we've gone on and we added many, many customers with ACH since 2001. And of course, we still do checks. And in 2010, we added the recovery of debit and credit cards that are declined, not at the point of sale, but through recurring billings. So you set up a membership at your local YMCA, and your payments go through month after month, and then all of a sudden there wasn't enough funds in your account to cover the ACH payment for your YMCA membership, and it bounces. Well, believe it or not, that happens pretty regularly. So the YMCAs were one of our top largest customers that we brought in early in our system, and I will say that today we serve over 2,500 YMCAs, and initially it was about collecting the NSF payments, getting them that cash, and it was about us doing the customer service so they didn't have to, but it turned out that it was all about customer retention, because the way they had to collect all those bad payments was they had to make phone calls, and when they made the phone calls, about 1 out of every 7 or 8 turned into a cancellation over the phone. So our system, which started in 1999, allows us to recover bad payments electronically without making phone calls, without writing letters. And we do it for free for our customers. So all the YMCAs that we have in our system and have had in our system for many years, they've all been using our service, getting free recovery of their NSF or declined payments and getting 100% of the recovery. And we do not send anything out that doesn't get 100% recovered. I mean, we pay 100% of everything that we do recover. That's what I'm trying to say. So let me just tell you this. There are several people that have made a full-time business out of just putting eCashflow out to their customers. And they don't have to sell anything else, but they do sell eCashflow full-time. The guys that established the YMCAs, they've made a ton of money for many years. They got a niche, and they've done very well. And there's a few other niches. I won't get into great details on those, but some of them are still checks, believe it or not. In the marketplace, the business-to-business check is still very big. And I'll give you some primary examples. We have some large bottling companies and wholesale distribution companies that sell their products and deliver their products to mom-and-pop grocery stores, convenient marts, gas stations, liquor stores, you name it. They send out trucks every night, and in the morning they're making deliveries all over the place, and they're taking payment by check. Why do they take check payments instead of credit card? Because the industry is so tight profit-wise that they can't afford to pay 2 or 3% for credit card processing, because that could be their entire profit margin. So they accept checks and checks only. And what we found early on was that many times the truck driver was responsible for picking up a check. But worse than that, if the check bounced, the truck driver was given the responsibility of collecting or getting a new check when he went back out to make another delivery. And of course, we also learned that truck drivers would forget to ask for a new payment. They would lose the check. I mean, a variety of things happened. And we took all that away, and we collect over 90% of the checks for all these business-to-business clients, and they love us. And again, it's free. It's absolutely 100% free for our clients. And so once we get started with the customer, they don't leave us. 96% of all the customers that have ever signed up with us are still customers. And that, of course, is unless they went out of business or were acquired by a bigger company who had a whole different process. But the bottom line is that what we have is a product that would allow you to make unlimited income based on the recovery of NSF items for clients that you sign up. The sign-ups are very simple. We have a couple-page documents that basically gives us some information on their business so we can put them in our system. And then they give us authorization to receive their payments that are declined, collect those payments, and then make direct deposits to their accounts. And we do that within a 7 to 21 day window normally. Sometimes we collect them in the first week. But what NACHA did, the National Automated Clearinghouse did, that separates us from banks and other types of collection processes is we get 2 representments where a bank only gets 1. So if you've ever had a check bounce or you've ever been involved with a business that had a check bounce, you know that you have an option at your bank to allow them to represent it a second time. And the banks will do that. They'll gladly do that, but it's not in their best interest to be successful. Banks make money when payments bounce, as we all know. And so when they go through and they clear, the bank doesn't make any money on that. Our process and our system is totally opposite. We are successful when we are successful, and we are, 70 to 80% of the time on the average. We charge a small fee to the check writer or the ACH authorizer or the debit or credit card authorizer. And that's where our revenue is generated and comes from. And that's why we don't charge any fees to our customers. But we do it based on our success rate. So opposite of a bank. The bank makes money when the checks fail. We make money when the checks are good. So it's certainly in our best interest to be really good at what we do because our revenue will increase the better job that we do for our customers. We keep it very simple. We have a complete reporting system. We have websites for customers. We send out our commissions once a month based on the previous month's activity. And what we've done is we've developed what we think is a very specialized business. Very early on, there was lots of competition for what we do, but if you'll search today, you won't find anybody that can do the things that we can do with all the different types of payments. And then there's one more thing that I'll tell you about. We're not a collection agency. We are a clearinghouse for non-sufficient funds payments. That's exactly what we are. So if anybody asks you, that's what you can describe us as. In the big picture, though, we also offer an option to our clients. If we're not able to collect an item or items for them after we've collected our 70 or 80%, the other 20%, they can opt to use a collections service that we can forward their items to, and they will get 100% of the recovery at no charge from the collection agency that we use. We provide them with enough business that we've negotiated that they don't keep a portion of our customers' funds. They give them 100% of what they collect, and then they go separately and get their revenue from the bad check writer or authorizer of the account. So we have a complete top-to-bottom service where there's no cost to our merchants, none whatsoever, and we give them 100% of the recovery of the items that they allow us to recover for them. Over the years, we've gotten into just about every industry you can think of. So think of an industry, whether it be utility, telecommunications, small retail, large retail. We have retailers that will have several thousand locations, and we'll recover any payments they have in those locations that go bad. And we can make reports that go to each location. We can send reports to the home headquarters of all of the different locations. We cover all the bases for our clients. And then, of course, we do all the customer service for the recovery process. That's pretty much all of it, but you may have some questions, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions and see what we can do from there.
Also, we have the deck here too. Was there anything you want me to go through on here?
You can slide through the deck, and we'll just sort of talk about it as we go. You know, every customer that accepts a payment that's not cash, they do get declined payments from time to time. Maybe only one a month, maybe 50 or 100 or 200 a month. But the bottom line is anybody that accepts payments other than cash, they do get declined payments. And we have no minimum. So if somebody wants to sign up and they have one bad check a year, we'll be happy to recover it for them. But I know that that's not what you guys want, and that's not what we want for you guys. But that just gives you an example. There are no minimums. Obviously, there's no maximums either. But yeah, just go file through here, and we'll make a comment if we see one that's necessary to make. One of the things that we like to do is do an analysis for a new prospect. if they'll give us an idea of how many returns they have, how many declines, and the average amount of each decline, maybe it's $300, maybe it's $100, whatever it is, we can actually determine for them what our recovery will be in dollars and cents, based on averages, of course, within a few percentage points, and we can show them how much money they can save by using our service over whatever they're doing today. Some companies have an in-house recovery system that they use where they pay people to make phone calls and all that kind of stuff. They can continue to do that and use us, because they could fold us right in front of that and reduce the amount of in-house collections they would have to do. It'd be perfect. And we have lots of people that do that. They use us first. If we're not successful on the final 20%, then they go and they recover those themselves. It's just like, now they're doing 100% of their collections. Using us, they only have to do 20% of what they used to do. So think of the savings that they can have internally and not have poor customer relations because they had to make a collection call, if you will, to their clients. Okay, go ahead. All of these things are just sort of questions for merchants, Yeah, what do they do with their current recoveries now? What do they do when they have a bounce payment now? What is their process? If we learn what their process is, we can help them by showing them what to do in advance of whatever they're doing today. So go ahead. Some people call what we do soft collections because we don't make phone calls, we don't write letters. It's not required. NACHA has given us authorization to do these recoveries upon giving notification through either a sticker on a retailer's door or something on their website that indicates here's what will happen if your payment is declined for NSF reasons. Just 2 sentences basically notifies them, and eCashflow will be involved and do the recovery, and you will be charged a recovery fee when they're successful. Okay. These are just some examples of what we do and how we do it. Everything is done with the NACHA guidelines, and remember, NACHA is the National Automated Clearinghouse Association that makes all the rules for checks and for ACH payments, which are basically electronic payments. So we keep it as simple as we possibly can. Our clients are super important to us, so they're always informed about what we do. They get reports directly from us when we receive items. So if they send us a file or their bank sends us a file of returns, when we load those into our system, we send them a notification of here's what we just received, and these are in process. You can go online and you can follow the status of each of the items that we're working on for you. Now, you guys probably wonder, well, shoot, how do we get started? Well, it's a whole lot easier than you might think. You would, in my case, back in 1999, I went to merchants that I knew. I already knew. I knew some merchants that I knew had issues, and I went over there and I just signed them up and we took off. Most companies would like to have some sort of a relationship with whoever they're authorizing to do their recoveries. So what I'm saying is that you have to build a relationship with people that you're going to handle their money and get it back to them. We've been in business a long time, so we know pretty much all the questions they'll ask. We know all the things that can go wrong when we've already signed them up. And how come we aren't receiving items yet? Well, we know all the reasons why we haven't received their items, and we can stay in contact with them and make sure that they're set up. We can automate the items coming directly to us so they don't even have to build a file. And then we can automate the payments so that they even update their payment systems. We have accounts that we do that for today, all over the place. Let's see. So there's no setup fees. There's no fees. Once we have the items, they don't pay any return fees like they do to their bank when the bank does a representment. So there's no service fees. There's no monthly fees. There's no equipment to buy. This is a direct relationship with us and your client where we recover their declined payments and get them their funds back, within 7 to 21 days. Okay. These are some of the clients. Pardon me?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Open question time?
Yeah, you can ask questions at any time. I'm just sort of going through this so you guys have an idea of how it works.
Okay, great.
This is Brian
for Sacramento. How long does the sign-up process usually take from start to finish for new clients?
You can sign up a customer the day you meet them or the day you talk to them over the phone. It's really up to them. I mean, they can sign up and have items sent to us the next day, and we can be processing for them. Now, does it happen that way on a regular basis? No. Generally, they want to maybe discuss what it is that we're doing with somebody else in their organization. If they go down to the department where they're already doing the collections via phone, they could get some pushback because those people can see or realize that potentially they're going to have less work to do, which could affect their job long term. So we like to work on the top level of the business, that's the CEO or the CFO, and explain to them that this is a top level decision to use us, because if you give the decision to the people that run a department of collections, they're probably going to fight it because it could mean the difference between their job and another job. But the idea is it can take one day or it can take several days, but it does not need to take a long time. I will say this: I have personally worked with accounts that took months to bring in-house, but it was worth it. The objective in what we do is we make our presentation. The merchant listens, nods his head that, wow, this sounds great. How come I never heard about this before? And we explain to them, sorry, we just didn't get to you in the last 20 years. We've been working with other accounts, but we'll be glad to get you going as soon as possible. And once they hear the whole story, you'll hear things like, well, this is too good to be true. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, but it's more than true, because a free service is free if there's no charges, and we don't charge for anything. And yes, we do get our revenue from the bad check writers or authorizers, and that's where it needs to come from. They caused the problem, and they know that there are fees involved with the collection of their bad payments, and it's not a big issue. Now, I will say this, that we've gone a step farther, and we made a decision early on that if somebody were to call us about a fee that we charged on a recovery, and by the way they know it's us and how they get our number is on their bank statement. When they see the fee on the bank statement, our phone number is right next to it. And they can call us up and they can say, what is this fee? And if they weren't notified in advance, and we'll tell them all about it. And if they ask, we will give that fee back. The good news is we don't get very many calls. So people know that there are fees associated with the recoveries of bad payments, and we're happy to give the feedback if they call us and ask. So try to keep it simple. We're not here to create problems for our customers or even their clients that bounce payments, but we do a big job for many customers. We've got almost 10,000 customers now, nationwide in every state. And any more questions? I'd be happy to. I can go on all day. I've got all kinds of time.
Can you tell us some of the best people to go after, like who are, like as a sales rep or if you're out in the field, I know this is good for almost every business, but so what are some of the best ones and some of the easier ones, like alarm companies that collect on a regular basis, or gyms? I know that could be one. Can you throw out a few other industries?
I can. I'll first cover that membership industry, because there are tons of, I'm going to say, membership organizations like gyms and health clubs and things like that, that when people sign up, it's not something that they need to continue at any given point in time. They can cancel because they don't go to it anymore. And what happens is we help those people retain those people because they don't call them up and get them to cancel over the phone. So membership organizations are probably prime targets, and it can be any type of membership, not a YMCA or a health club, any type of membership that is not necessarily going to continue or have to continue. And a home security is a prime example. They're paying $19.95 a month or $29.95 a month, and they've been doing this for 2 years, and do they need to keep doing it? Well, not necessarily. They could stop if they want to, I suppose. But in the big picture, if a payment bounces, if they have to call them about a bounce payment, they could cancel, and some do. But if they're using us, we'll collect that payment and get it in, and there were no phone calls, so there's also no cancellation. So yes, even internet providers, all the different companies that provide services that are paid on a monthly basis, they sign up for recurring payments. Those are all good. Now, let me give you some other examples. Some people have asked me, okay, well, who should we definitely go to, which we know takes checks, and we know there's going to be enough of them to make it worthwhile. And the first one out of the can is grocery stores. Now, are we talking about Kroger, the largest grocery chain in the country? No, but we're talking about so many independent grocery stores. We have a ton of IGA stores in our group. We have all these independent grocery stores. They all take checks. They all get they all get payments that bounce every month. And it's going to vary on the quantity, of course, but the bottom line is that they're pretty easy to sign up. And generally, they have somebody inside the store that tries to collect those checks. So, do you want to talk to that person? Well, you could, and they may be happy to give it up because they've got too many other things to keep them busy. But the best choice would be the general manager or the owner of the store. And once they realize what it is that you do, and it'll take the pressure off of somebody in the store that has to do that, it's a no-brainer, especially because there's no cost to them, and they get 100% when it's recovered. So those are good examples. Another good example would be, and we just developed a program not too long ago for wholesale distributors. So these are people that they make deliveries to these mom and pop grocery stores, to convenient marts, gas stations, all these different companies. And believe it or not, small businesses, they have cash flow issues just like consumers do because they're small businesses. And occasionally a payment that they made by check to a distributor or a wholesaler will bounce. And many of their payments, most of the payments in the wholesale distributor industry are checks. So there's a ton of them. There are a ton of them out there. And we had a guy about 10 years ago call on a single distributor in Columbus, Ohio, and they had about 30 items a month at that one location. And we told them about our program. They signed up for it. And within 2 months, not only were we were successful collecting 90% plus for them, but they loved it so much they called corporate headquarters, and the corporate headquarters, without anybody making a presentation to them, they wanted it for all of their locations. 147 distributors in all 50 states. Just to give you an example, we only called on one location, got them signed up. 2 months later, it was spread around all these other distributors in that company. So I'm just saying that there's potential for just about any kind of business you can think of. If you're going to do retail, for example, I would work on certainly small chains. Individual retailers probably don't have very many checks anymore, like they used to have a ton of them 20 years ago. But in the big picture, we've got retailers that have stores, but they have 2,000 stores, as an example. And we recover the checks for those stores, and they get 100% of their money, and You know, they were making their managers of the stores collect their checks, and the managers hated it, and they didn't do a good job. And at any rate, it's about talking to the right person, getting them to understand the process, and it's pretty straightforward from that point on. And here's the key. This is the biggest key of everything. When you make a contact and they say, well, you know, yeah, we should probably be using that service. Actually, we probably should have been using it 5 years ago. The point of it is that is an introduction to a sale that you can close. And most of the time, nobody says they don't like what we offer or they don't want to do it. Most of the time, they say, we'll look into this and get back to you. Well, guess what? It'll get on the back burner and nothing will happen. So the most important thing I can tell you about is its persistence. You need to, if once they've indicated that they're in a buy position, and most everybody will be, you need to contact them weekly and say, hey, look, you were going to sign up. You've got the documentation. How about if I stop by and we get this done? Or can you just sign it up and then email it to us, or scan it and, you know, or fax it? They can send it in any way they want to. They can go online and sign up. But the bottom line is that it requires somebody to stay after them, because this is not something that they absolutely have to put in place. They got a process right now that's been working for some time. All we're going to do is save them a ton of money and effort, and they don't always just say, yeah, well, let's do that tomorrow. But they may do it if you stay in touch with them this week, next week, at least with an email to remind them that, hey, remember all those benefits that we told you about you'd get with eCashflow? Well, they're still there, and we got to get this thing going. And if you give us the number of NSFs you have a month, we can show you how much money we're going to collect for you and how much money you'll save on collections. And we can put it in dollars and cents. So any other questions?
Hey, this is Troy.
Hey, Troy.
Hey, so we have another product that has been very successful with doctors' offices, medical practices in general, and hospitals. Would you say that and with hospitals, a little different, because most doctors' offices, they don't outsource it, but hospitals do. They often have, or they have a department dedicated to that particular pursuit of collections, or they've outsourced it to another company that does that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I would love to. We have some hospitals in our group. We have some health care centers, you know, family health, things like that. And essentially, hospitals, they don't like to be in the collections business. That's really not what they're in business to do. So most of them, and I'm not going to say all because it isn't all, but most of them will send it out to a collection agency who will send out letters, make phone calls, and when they get the money, they're going to keep 30 or 40% of it for themselves and give the bank the rest. I mean, not the bank, but the hospital the rest. And we don't do that. We're going to do our best to collect it electronically and give them 100%. And if we can't complete that, if they authorize us to send it to our collection agency, who will write letters and make phone calls, when they collect, they'll get 100% of their money and not just, you know, 60 or 70% of what it should have been. So there's advantages to using us in just about every instance you can find out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm on the Agora website now. Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
Say, Rod. I'm on the Agora in the back office.
Yeah.
So, Rod, real quick also, can you talk about the type of commissions to be earned and the potential for a sales rep?
I can. I can tell you that a percentage of the fee, and by the way, the fees vary by state, but the average across the country is probably $25, maybe a little bit more than that. And so there's a percentage that's broken out, and Agora has set that up with you guys, or is in the process of setting it up with you guys, so you know how much you earn on every recovery and fee. And it just grows. It just grows and grows and grows. I didn't tell you guys this earlier, but we have a couple of guys that make over $20,000 a month. Just because they got niches, they found the right companies, and they built it. And that's good news, but it's also bad news for the continuous growth of our company because they've gotten really comfortable and they don't sell anything anymore. So I throw that out there just to let you know that the potential is there for everyone to earn a living if they so choose to by working hard and bringing in the accounts. And like I said, the accounts don't come in temporarily. In general, they're with us forever because the amount of money that we save them is money that if they go away from us at another later date, they're going to have to spend money. They're going to have to go out and spend money to replace us once we start saving them money from the get-go.
So, Rod, I see on here you have free analysis. So let's say if you could tell real quick, if I am a sales rep and I have a business that's interested, that I got on the hook here, can you kind of tell the process? Here in the back of Agora, here's Rod's information, phone, email, stuff like that. Could you kind of tell them what to call you? Can you kind of tell the process what you'd like them to do?
I can because essentially, we ask half a dozen questions, and if they will give us that information, we can come back to them with a custom solution utilizing our services, and sometimes maybe it won't even be utilizing our services, but we can come back to them with, here are what we think would be some really good things you could do to improve your cash flow, your inventory. They just have to answer a few questions, and we basically put those in writing and say, hey, look, how many transactions do you do a month, and how many of them bounce, and what's the total amount of the bounces, and what do you do for the recovery process, and what does it cost you to get a collected item? We've gone through that with a number of companies, and it turns out that it's anywhere between $12 and $25 just to get a collection in-house if they have to do it themselves. And then, of course, if they do it on the outside collection agency is going to keep 30, 40% of whatever it is that they collect. So when you can learn what they currently do and they share with you what they believe are their costs, we can come back and we can give them our costs right back at them and show them how much we're going to be able to save them a month. And it doesn't take, it's not rocket science because you'll see the questions are fairly straightforward. And if they give you the answers, we can get back to them in a matter of, minutes with, okay, here's what we're going to save you if you use our service.
And you would like a sales rep to call you directly, email you? How would you like them to go about? What works best for you?
Well, I tell you what, I love talking to salespeople and trying to help them close deals. So anyone is very welcome to give me a call at any time. I'm usually available, but if I'm not, I'll get back with you. If you want to send me an email, I will respond to your email, giving you whatever information you're asking for and help, and we can get together. We can even do a call with your prospect together. I love to do that stuff because I like to know what's going on with the prospects, and I can generally, hopefully, pull out enough information that we can give them some sort of a custom product for exactly what will work for them.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And here's a visit special offer site, you guys. When you're in the back of Agora, you can click on this. This takes you over more information customized for Agora, and you can walk through, get more information here. But we really appreciate your time today, Rod, and you did a really good job covering it. Like I said, this is one of a really exciting product. It's a niche product. It covers a really needed thing for a business owner, and you have the potential to make some really good commission. This is great to have in your back pocket to know about it. So, Rod, thank you. If there's not any other questions, I'll open up just a moment here. Then we'll go ahead and we'll end the call, and everyone. Give one last moment here. Okay, looks like you did a good job. Got everything taken care of. Rod, thank you for your time. Thank you for being on the call.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about eCashflow. it's one of those things after 20 years, it's become a part of me. So I like to talk about it. So thanks very much for having me.
Thank you, Rod. You have a good day. Everyone else have a good day.
Okay.